The Nigeria Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010 was enacted to promote increased Nigeria participation in the petroleum industry, a game changer that has helped Nigeria claw back work, services and spends which used to leave the country to other parts of the world. Hello and welcome to the Local Content Television program. I am Priyafaka and I'm glad to have you join us. The oil and gas industry is highly technology intensive and not a high employer of labor. But through its direct project and partnership with project promoters, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board is able to create thousands of jobs. Listen to some of these initiatives from the Executive Secretary of NCDMB himself. Don't go away.
The core mandate of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, is to develop and ensure the utilization of in-country capacities in the oil and gas industry, and recently to support federal government's drive for optimal gas utilization in the country. With a charge given by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Temitope Silva, for collaboration among parastatals under the ministry and stakeholders in the industry, the NCDMB has made significant strides in terms of partnerships and equity investments expected to create thousands of job opportunities, direct and indirectly reduce capital flight, and contribute to economic growth. There was the accession and share subscription agreement signing with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), Brass Fertilizer and Petrochemical Company Limited, and DSV Engineering for the construction of a 10,000 tons per day methanol plant and 500 million standard cubic feet per day gas processing plant in Odama, Brass in Bayelsa State. The groundbreaking of the Energy Infrastructure Park being developed by Atlantic International Refinery and Petrochemical Limited, as well as the first and second cylinder manufacturing plants by Rungus Group. Also, there's equity investment agreements with DuPont Midstream Company for the establishment of an energy park in Egboko, Edo State, and Iraxon Nigeria Limited for a lubricating oils blending plant in Bahrain in Bayelsa State. The Brass Petroleum Products Terminal, an estimated 10.500 billion naira project, is a recent venture of the board in collaboration with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) and Z Energy Limited.
Bayelsa State, despite the quantity of crude oil being produced and the quantity of gas that comes out of Bayelsa itself, it has no product terminal of any nature. So this is one statement that the current administration is making to ensure that development is taken to where the resource is coming from. Secondly, like you know, today there is so many of illegal refining going on within the Niger Delta. And they do this because of the product is not available for them to procure. And even if it is available, it is very expensive for them to procure. Most of the times, twice the approved price. That's what they get those products for, because it is not available. So the Brass Product Terminal will create an opportunity and make the product available within the riverine community.
The nature of the Brass Petroleum Products Terminal is to have the capacity to service offshore activities within the coast of Brass and Bayelsa as a whole.
Almost 80% of the FPSOs you have today in the country are within that axis. And these FPSOs are serviced from Lagos, serviced from Calabar and the rest. But centrally placing that terminal, they will be able to service most of those FPSOs from that and the platforms from that product terminal. And then secondly, NNPC some years back tried to develop the floating stations in order to dispense, is it PMS or OEGO, to local boat operators. But that floating filling stations never really took off because the avenue to supply the product did not exist. So this product terminal can fill in that gap as well as make those floating fuel stations become useful at the end of the day. So it's quite significant, and I'm very much excited about it.
The NCDMB enters into these projects in realization of the fact that the oil and gas industry is not a high employer of labor like agriculture and construction, for example.
Within the construction stage, it has the capacity to create about 1,000 direct jobs and about 3,000 indirect and induced jobs. And during the operation phase, it will still maintain that number because a lot of activities will coalesce around that product terminal. So it's a win for the country, it's a win for the Niger Delta, and particularly a win for Bayelsa State. And that's perhaps one of the greatest significance because if you listen to the yearnings of the people, part of what they struggle with is this product comes out of the region, but they don't get to procure it at the approved price. So this terminal has the potential to make sure product gets to them when they need those products.
Another milestone achievement of the board is the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas NLNG Train 7 project.
The Train 7 project has really achieved a lot of firsts all these years. Most importantly, we signed the contract with the winning contractor during the heat of the pandemic, which is quite significant. And that took a lot of the international community by surprise that we could make that happen. And then the other bit is that we did flag off the construction work in Bonny by our dear president. Now, for local content development, like you know, it was agreed and signed off with NLNG that 50% of the entire construction work will happen in country. Procurement, construction, be it jetty, be it roads, be it camps, be it fabrication of pressure vessels, fabrication of structural steel materials, everything will happen in country.
Like the Brass Petroleum Terminal, the NLNG Train 7 project also has positive impact on the nation's employment status.
During the pandemic, most of the fabrication yards that we have built over time with capacity to handle about 250,000 metric tons a year were all idle. So with the Train 7, we can see them bracing up to be busy. It's significant. And like Mr. President said during the ceremony, we expected that NLNG would have gone up to Train 12 by now. But nothing happened. Since 2007, they built the 6th train. They've been in discussion on how to start the 7th train. But today, here we are. That has started. And by the grace of God, nothing is going to stop it because it is expected to create about 10,000 direct jobs and almost 40,000 indirect jobs. So when you add this number, it's quite significant for local content development. And our desire is that by the end of the Train 7, we would have been able to increase local content from 35% to 40% before we finish that Train 7 project.
For engineer Simbi Wabote, these final investment decisions are legacy projects he will be remembered for even after his tenure as the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB.
It's a very proud moment for us. Especially, I am particularly excited because we took FID on this project during my tenure, and we are going to perhaps finish this project in 3 or 4 years' time. And then secondly, when this administration came on board, particularly the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, he promised that before the end of the tenure, we will take about 3 to 4 major final investment decisions. So that goal will be achieved. And that for me is exciting, because the question people will ask you is that during your tenure, which final investment decision did you take? And you can point to what is. So for me, very much exciting. When I came on board, we were still building the GINA project. Majority of the works happened then, but the investment decision was taken before my tenure. So taking this investment decision on the Train 7 and other upstream project is indeed very exciting to me.
These partnerships and investments by the NCDMB is in line with its 10-year strategic roadmap to raise Nigeria content to 70% by the year 2027.